Hi guys, Brexiteers have been forced into accepting reality, while in a limited way, facts can no longer be ignored. The government has admitted that post-Brexit checks at the border will add to food inflation. This is one of the reasons they have been postponed. Now, the original plan was to introduce a regime in October, but that has been put off until January. Then in April 2024, physical checks will begin. Peer Lord Lilley, a Brexiteer, claimed that he would have preferred no checks at all. Have a listen to this.
Now, in black and white, today, the government acknowledged that these post-Brexit checks will add to food inflation, which is the opposite of what was
5.2% over 3 years. Let's be specific.
Okay, but I mean, so for example, with the Pacific trade deal, that originally was said to only boost the economy by 0.08%, and a lot's made of that. So 0.2% is a material increase in headline inflation.
I'd rather it didn't happen. I'd rather we had no controls on food and food products coming from the EU, as we haven't had for 50 years. But if we can't, the only reason for having any is for health reasons.
Okay, well, that's part of the reason. It's not the only reason. Now, isn't it interesting how Brexiteers will trumpet the TCPPP, even though it adds only 0.08% to GDP, and we're not really going to see any benefits from that for something like another 10 years. But when it comes to how Brexit is adding to food inflation, well, we can downplay that. You know, it's over 3 years or over 2 years, whatever it was. But finally, they're admitting reality. They're admitting that Brexit is adding to inflation, which is something, of course, they denied for so long. But if you're not carrying out checks, you're not taking back control. Taking back control was one of the pillars of Brexit. So I don't know why Lord Lilley is saying he'd prefer no checks at all, because that wouldn't be taking back control. The UK, Great Britain I should say, is now outside the single market. The UK is a third country. So it has to carry out checks. Because if it's not carrying out checks, it's creating an unlevel playing field. It's damaging both British industry and British farming. Because goods are not being checked from coming in from the EU, but they are being checked when they're going into the EU. So you're creating restrictions on British industry and farming that EU industry and farming don't have. How is that beneficial to British industry? It's not. It's the opposite. Brexit is a disaster. And, you know, whatever way you cut it, if you're not carrying out checks, you're damaging UK industry because you're undercutting them. But if you do carry out checks, you're adding extra costs and delays. The only solution to this is to admit that Brexit was a mistake and start planning to rejoin the European Union and eventually the single market. That's the only solution here. Because continuing to say, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll keep postponing these checks, they have been postponed once again. Instead of starting the regime in October, it's been kicked into the long grass. January is the new plan. It could be postponed once again in January. But that's going to undercut British industry once again. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.